When you listen to the conversation, and you're also now part of the initiative, but help us understand what the bank is doing. And again, I would like to underscore you've been doing over many years to support private sector involvement and public-private partnerships, if you will, in frontier markets.
Thank you very much, Milek, and I'm really delighted to be here and to have an opportunity to continue the conversation that we started in New York in September last year. And because I really strongly believe that we have a perfect alignment about really the objective and, of course, the collective efforts that we are all putting in to make sure that we really increase the space and the number of actors, the number of private sector companies who are really investing in frontier market. As you know, Milek, 85% of the population on the continent live either in a country or has a border with a country that is affected by conflict. On top of that, you lay the challenges of climate change. 9 out of 10 countries, according to the recent Vulnerability Index, are in Africa. And you have indeed, unfortunately, a recipe for having the need for more humanitarian intervention on the continent. And really the way we approach the situation, I think we try to do 3 things. The first one is, and I think I was discussing it with Jessica and Peter earlier on, is that we think that we need to tell the story. Yes, there is the story of all of these challenges and risks, but there is also, I think, a formidable story of the amazing investment opportunities that the continent offers. And I want to say for the savvy investor. The savvy investor is one who knows that things are not easy, who knows that he needs to be a little bit more patient, that he needs to do things slightly differently. And this is why I'm so delighted to be part of this panel, because we are hearing precisely from the partners that we are working with from the government. And thank you so much, Madam Minister. The government of Norway has been a very strong supporter of everything that we do. We would like to work more with foundation. So telling the story about what the continent offers is already a very good step in getting this private sector to crowd in. Yes, the energy poverty that we are complaining about, the 600 million Africans who are still not have access to electricity, for us, it is an opportunity. And mind you, unfortunately, 75% of these 600 million are in fragile environment, frontier market that we are really discussing. So addressing and being able to crowd in the hundreds of billions of dollars that we need annually to bring the continent to universal access to energy by 2030 is going to be found with structured partnership with the private sectors. And we have a number of initiatives to do that. I could talk to you about the Desert to Power initiative, which is happening in the Sahel region, where the objective is really to mobilize $20 billion, and we are already well advanced in doing that, to create and to help generate 10 gigawatts of electricity using renewable sources, and that will help address the energy poverty of 250 million people on the continent. These are the kind of initiatives, these are the kind of projects where we really would like to crowd in the private sector, working, and each one understanding the role they need to play. And I think you said it, we need to have more visibility about who does what, but also taking on the risk that they are best placed to take on. And from that perspective, for example, in addition to telling the story of the opportunities, the bank has been able to really come up with very impactful alliances. And more we are working beyond the scope of course, the financial institution, the world of the donors, and we are really working with humanitarian and peace actors. You may remember that at the last recently concluded Africa Resilience Forum held in Abidjan in October, we really had a formidable participation from all these new actors, we are exploring approaches about peace-positive investment. We want to work more on the prevention side. And these are new approaches, new actors, new partnerships. And of course, we are a bank. So we have, of course, the suite of financial instruments that are supposed to really help give comfort to private investors, leverage their participation. We are able to, lend long-term, of course. We are able to, working, again, with donor countries, develop blended finance facilities. We're able to develop our capabilities to lend in local currency. This is one risk that investors do not like to take, foreign exchange risk. So we are really working at that frontier. But what investors tell us also is we need those projects. And this is why we are also developing our capabilities. And just to mention one example, the Alliance for Green Infrastructure in Africa is an approach, is a method where we really hope to crowd in, and we have been already successful in mobilizing a lot of interest to develop a project, bankable project in the whole green infrastructure area. And by mobilizing $500 million for project preparation facilities, we hope to be able to bring about investment worth $10 billion, which would still be a drop in the ocean of the needs of the continent. But we need to provide this type of platform to crowd in the private sector. Those who really mean it, they know where to find those opportunities. And this is what we also see as our role. And by way of de-risking, I think it's also important to mention a very groundbreaking role that we are playing in, at the request of the African Union, developing security index investment bonds. For us, this is an instrument where we really need to help governments address the issues of insecurity that is unfortunately developing and crowding out, unfortunately, the investment. And here, what we would like these security index investment bonds, once they are structured, once they are issued, is to really be able to quickly help governments when they are faced with disastrous event, be they weather-related or terrorism, to be able to quickly put back the infrastructure that is damaged to work. It's important for us to also invest in the social infrastructure, water, and this is at the grassroots level. Oftentimes, in the areas where these big projects are happening, because it's important to make sure that we carry along everyone. And the third aspect that these security index investment bond will help us do is to also help governments protect strategic assets, strategic investment for the country. So I hope that we really have an opportunity to do things differently, and the time is now. And we are really inviting all the actors, and I'm really delighted that foundations are new partners that we would like to do much more business with.
Thank you so much. I'll have one more follow-up question, but also we'll have time for one or two questions from the audience, if you have, so you can prepare. But just to follow up, because if I remember correctly, you've also been doing a lot of innovation in terms of how you work with the agricultural sector. And obviously, this is a hugely important sector. We also have some of our commitments in that sector. So could you just talk a little bit about some of those tools that you have there?
No, definitely. As we said, you can look at the private sector and inviting the private sector to come and join. Of course, there is a country focus, but we think that there is also a lot of value in working at the sector level. And there are some sectors which are probably lend themselves more to others. For us, we think that agriculture sector is definitely a sector where we can work with everybody, and everybody has a role to play. Let me take the example of indeed agriculture. 3 elements. Convening power of the African Development Bank. January last year, we were able to invite within 72 hours 34 heads of states of government to join us in Dakar to talk about how Africa is going to feed itself and how we are going to feed the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. This was extraordinary because this was an event where head of states came with their teams and with very clear what we are now calling food and agriculture delivery compact, and come and tell us, this is what I would like to do, these are the sectors that I would like to develop, these are the investment that they need, and this is what I am willing to do to make those things happen. So government committing themselves, which again is one risk that private sector does not like, visibility about and consistency of government action. Second part of it was, how do we go about it? What do we do? And I would like to talk about the incredible success of the technology for agriculture transformation in Africa that we have really mainstream in various countries. And I would like to give the example of Ethiopia, where by really focusing on climate resilient seeds, working with the private sector to develop the seeds, to basically produce the seeds that were developed in research institutes, adapted to the context in Africa, we have been able to help Ethiopia basically in the space of 4 years to be able to, from an importer of wheat to become now on way to self-sufficiency and also exporting. And we are particularly happy with the agreement that they signed, for example, with Kenya, to be able to export now this wheat to Kenya. And I think these are very concrete examples where everybody has a role to play and who can do much more across the continent.